Sometimes in our own lives, we find ourselves checking signs, scanning calendars, waiting for the right moment before we act. We pause because a date feels unlucky, or we move because someone has told us it's blessed. And in all that waiting, in all that calculating, a quiet question follows us. What truly guides our steps? It is in moments like these, when we feel the pressure of timing, symbols, and unseen forces. Ancient stories reveal their usefulness. They remind us that uncertainty is not new, and neither is our longing for a safe path. So when the Thingazar Sayadaw prepared to leave Mandalay for Molmine, his followers worried. They looked at the almanac, studied the stars, and warned him that the day he had chosen was an unlucky one. Their voices carried the same anxiety many of us feel today, the desire to avoid misfortune before it arrives. But the Sayadaw only smiled gently. A monk, he said, has no lucky or unlucky days. And with that quiet certainty, he reminded them of a story, one rooted in a village along the Irrawaddy River, where two monasteries stood at opposite ends of a long, dusty settlement, a southern monastery and a northern monastery, two great halls, two wise abbots, and a rivalry woven not from anger, but from pride and practice. In that quiet village, the lesson of luck and fate once revealed itself in a slow, startling way, and the Sayadaw invited his followers to remember it. Along the upper reaches of the Irrawaddy, life moved with the river, steady, patient, and unhurried. At one end of a long village stood the southern monastery, tall and respected. At the other end rose the northern monastery, equally grand. Both housed many monks, each guided by an abbot, known for learning and purity. Yet between them a soft rivalry lived, not bitterness, only the quiet competition that grows when two respected paths run side by side. The Southern Abbot, though wise, placed great faith in astrology. He charted days the way farmers read weather, believing the heavens whispered warnings and blessings. The Northern Abbot, equally devoted, held no such belief. His steps were guided only by intention, discipline, and the present moment. One day, both men received an invitation from the King of Ava to take part in a great religious ceremony. It was an honor no monk would ignore. The Southern Abbot looked upward, consulted his charts, and chose a day he believed to be fortunate. He would leave the following morning. When word of this reached the Northern Abbot, he made his own announcement. If tomorrow was blessed for one, it would be unlucky for the other, so he chose to leave a day later. Thus the river waited, holding the quiet beginning of a lesson neither abbot yet understood. Dawn rose gently over the river, and the Southern Abbot began his journey. His followers boarded a boat painted white, the color many believed invited fortune. The river accepted their weight with a calm hush, carrying them downstream toward Ava. By evening they reached a village and stopped to rest. Lantern light glowed softly along the riverbank, and soon the village headman approached with humility in his voice. He explained that an initiation ceremony for his young son would take place the next morning, yet the abbot of their local monastery had suddenly fallen ill. They needed a monk who could guide the sacred moment, and since Ava was only a short journey away, the headman asked the Southern Abbot to stay until noon and bless the ceremony before continuing on. The Southern Abbot listened, measured the request, and accepted. The night passed quietly, and when the morning sun rose over the village roofs, he and his followers left their white boat and walked toward the headman's home. As they entered the ceremony, the river behind them remained calm, unaware of the swift, dark shape moving down its length. Upstream, at that same quiet dawn, the Northern Abbot began his own journey toward Ava. His boat, painted black, the color many deemed unfortunate, waited at the water's edge. He stepped aboard without hesitation, without fear of omens or signs. As the monk settled in, a sudden wind rose from the river's far bends. It caught the boat's sides like an unseen hand and pushed it forward with startling force. The water churned, and the black boat surged downstream faster than any of them expected. By noon, carried by the wind's relentless speed, they reached the very village where the Southern Abbot was. Attending the initiation, the ceremony echoed softly from the houses, but the Northern Abbot's boat did not pause. It slipped past like a shadow. Yet the river's swiftness came with a price. An hour beyond the village, the boat struck a hidden rock with great force. Wood-splintered water rushed in, and the vessel gave way. The Northern Abbot and his followers plunged into the river, then surfaced, Struggling but alive, they swam to shore and lay along the bank, catching their breath beneath the vast sky. As they gathered themselves, the monks turned to their teacher with trembling frustration. "My lord tempted the stars," they said. "My lord treated astrology with contempt, hence all this trouble." The Northern Abbot did not answer. He only gazed upstream as though waiting for something or someone. The Northern Abbot stood quietly on the river bank, his robes heavy with water, his face calm despite the wreckage behind him. His followers murmured among themselves, still tangled in fear and belief, still convinced that fate had punished their master for ignoring the stars. Yet the abbot's gaze remained fixed on the shimmering bend upstream. Soon the shape he waited for appeared. The white boat of the Southern Abbot glided swiftly toward them, carried by the same restless wind that had overturned the black one. Its pale sides caught the sun as it raced along the current, faster than any oar could guide. The Northern Abbot watched with a sorrowful stillness, as though he already knew what the river intended. And then it happened. The white boat struck the same hidden rock with equal force. Wood cracked, water surged, the boat capsized, spilling the Southern Abbot and his monks into the river. The scene mirrored their own disaster so closely that the Northern Abbot's followers fell silent. Their faces, so full of certainty a moment ago, now flickered with confusion. The Southern Abbot and his monks reached the bank safely, dripping and breathless. The river released them onto the same shore where their rivals had washed up. And for a moment, both groups simply stood there, two paths, two beliefs, equally soaked by the same indifferent river. As the Southern Abbot wrung out his robes, the Northern Abbot stepped forward. Their eyes met, one who trusted the stars and one who trusted none, and the river's lesson hung between them like mist. The Northern Abbot broke the silence with a softened voice. "Your grandfather yonder," he said gently, nodding toward the drenched Southern Abbot, "in spite of his astrology, has done no better than I. The two of us will enter the king's audience chamber together, looking like drowned rats." The words carried neither triumph nor mockery, only recognition. For all their learning, all their practice, all their beliefs, fortune had treated them the same. The river had honored no color, no omen, no carefully chosen day. Their followers, who had argued over luck and fate, now stood humbled. Two abbots, equally devoted, equally tested, had arrived at the same lesson not through debate, but through the quiet, impartial hand of life. Side by side, wet from head to foot, they prepared to continue their journey, not as rivals in belief but as travelers who had glimpsed something larger than their disagreement. And the river flowed on as rivers do, untouched by notions of lucky or unlucky days. If this story rested gently in your thoughts, let its lesson travel with you for a while. Life does not always honor the signs we cling to, nor does it punish the doubts we carry. Sometimes the river simply moves and we move with it. What matters is the steadiness of the heart, not the color of the boat. If these reflections bring you calm or clarity, let this place be a small harbor you return to when the world feels uncertain. You may subscribe, like, or share, not out of duty, but as a way of keeping this quiet circle of wisdom alive. And if the story stirred something in you, let your thoughts settle in the comments, where others may find comfort in your reflection too. When you're ready to shape the next story, I am here.